We spend a vast amount on staff development in Victoria, in Australia, as in many other countries. But unfortunately, we often sort of waste that money because we're not actually using the staff development opportunities to really change teacher behaviour, to really deepen teacher skill. And what we want to try and do over the next number of months is to work alongside you in designing professional learning inside the school, which A, delivers consistent practice across the school, B, helps teachers talk more precisely and to share more precisely their effective teaching strategies. And C, sort of increases the repertoire, the range of strategies that teachers have in order to affect student learning. So there are ways in which we can organise professional learning to achieve those goals, and we want to be able to. We want to begin to share those practices amongst us as a whole group. And then it seems to me that if we're doing those three things, then we begin to change and develop the culture of our schools. You can't change culture directly. You change culture by doing those sorts of things. And part of your job as the leaders of school improvement in your own school will be to monitor the impact upon culture, because it's that which actually, in the end, makes the difference. All right? Once we've got a strong work culture that embodies all of these things, then the school really really takes off. And we'll be talking a lot about cultural change and how we manage that as we go through the program. But I think the other thing that we've learnt, those of us who've been involved in large-scale reform now over the last 10 years, is that it's relatively easy to improve an individual school. But what we want to do is we want to improve all the schools in a system, all the schools in a region. And that's why we're taking a much more systemic approach, and a much more approach which is sort of involved in trying to sort of network and for us to sort of learn from each other. And that's why we are all together today. That's why we will continue to work as groups of schools. That's why we have colleagues here whose title are network leaders, because we believe that sort of collaboration is a way that we can actually grow and transform our system. So part of the work that we'll be doing over the next couple of years is to be systematically and increasingly precisely beginning to find ways of collaborating, not for collaboration's sake, but to collaborate for the purpose of actually learning from each other. And that sort of, we hope that our practice in this area will sort of become deeper and more powerful. And as we do deepen it, in a sense, you will be taking increasing ownership of the direction of our work. Okay, well, that's what I wanted to say in terms of the general framework. Colleagues, have I sort of missed anything which is absolutely germane that I should have said in terms of trying to get the sort of the big picture? Do you want to say anything at this point? Okay. Well, let's just take a few minutes then to discuss that on our tables. That's the sort of, I hope, the big picture of the sort of the framework that we're using. We'll go deeper into this as we continue to work together. Let's have some discussion on the tables, and then if you've got any questions, we can sort of put them to sort of Wayne and to Bruce and the other RNLs. And then what I want to then move on to do, before we break for morning tea, is to try to take some images of schools, right, which have been on a transformational journey, look at what they have been doing, and try to reflect that in terms of our own practice. But let's just have a bit of discussion about the general framework for a couple of minutes, if we can.
But my question is the flexibility of this approach to graft into where schools are going already. I mean, a lot of these system approaches or regional approaches to things fall over and get that sense of ad hocery if they don't acknowledge the journey that schools are already on. And schools don't all start from the same place. And it's really important that schools get time and space to tick off what's already working rather than throw it all out. And a number of us that have been in schools it's our second or third principalship, you land in a place and you already have that sense that you've brought a new agenda and this is starting, and you have to give time and space. So I'm hoping that by us embarking and joining this, we can take the very best of this and what's already working in our own schools and graft it in to a continuous journey rather than a stop-start ad hoc approach that the ministry's been guilty of in the past.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think, do you agree with that, is the question?
How could I disagree with a man who's off to Harvard, Kevin? Look, there's no question that in the past the department's approach has been to roll out programs. This isn't a program. There is, however, an element of ad hocery because no one's been here before, so this is developing, but it's developing, like David said, it's more of a pilgrimage than a set of nomads. We do know where we're heading. We do have the best possible people sitting behind us, but we do want to integrate what's already happening in schools. So we're not going to be coming in and saying, well, here's a package, go and do it, because that's what we've done in the past. And then everyone's known that you can sit out the package and wait till the next one. And we're not doing that. This is a long-term project. We're looking at least the next 4 years. The other thing is that what we've done in the past hasn't been resourced. If you look at Auditor General's reports on what's been done in Victoria, hasn't been long-term, hasn't been significant investment, and hasn't been consistent beyond a small group of schools at best. When we were designing this, we actually turned all of those things around. Long-term, significant investment, somewhere between $40 and $50 million additional funding from the Commonwealth over the next 4 years. We actually have the resources to make this work, and it's a broad-ranging, well-thought-out approach, but it will change over time. And you talked about flexibility. One of the key objectives of this is to make it flexible, and what we're doing now is nothing like what we were doing 2 years ago. And if 2 years from now we're still doing the same stuff, we'll have failed, because we should be building the knowledge and capacity of everyone involved in this project up as we go. So it's not a static set of, well, here's the wisdom, and it's the wisdom, and that's how it is. 2 years down the track, what we know will be significantly different. But we do want to build on what you're doing already. There's no sense of us coming in telling you that this is how it is. But nonetheless, we face significant challenges, so it's up to us to work out how we do this together. And the other part, I think, is doing it beyond our own school. The notion of system leadership, which is something David's particularly strong on, is absolutely critical to this. And I think if I just look at BER funding, the federal capital works money, the system approach taken by our principals has been absolutely staggering. We've had principals who are in well-resourced schools who've had an entitlement to millions of dollars who've said, I won't take it. I would rather see it used somewhere else. Now that to me is just an indicator. The other thing is that we are making significant progress. People talk about the underperforming north. The reality is, if you look at NAPLAN data for last year, we're performing as well as anyone except for the east. Now there's significant differences, but and that's good because we haven't been in that position before. But the fact is we've got lots of schools where that's not the case. So we can take a big picture view and say we've made lots of progress, things are heading in the right direction. I think there is a much broader view of what's involved, and there is system leadership and there are schools working together. But this is an immense challenge and we've got to tailor it to each school. If we don't do that, we're dead in the water. We might as well not bother.